Hello, everyone. I'm back with another episode of the Well Balanced series. I'm super excited today to talk to Nina Boyce. She's a fertility awareness educator, and this is a topic that I think so many women need to hear about. This is very near and dear to my heart in particular, too. This is how I track my cycle and do all the things, and it's just been a game changer for me in so many ways. So I want all of you to know about it. And she's such an amazing resource. So I'm going to just add her into this combo and we will get this party started. Let's see here. Always iffy to see if...
Hi.
There we go. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm stuck on a little thing here. Okay, can you see me and hear me okay?
Yep. Same?
Okay.
Can you see and hear me good?
I can, yes. Thank you for doing this with me. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me. I am obsessed with fertility awareness method, so I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, hey, no one better than you, for sure. How was your 4th of July? Was it good?
It was really good. Yeah, we went up to Cleveland, where my husband's family's from, and then like Akron, Kansas. So this is like Northeast Ohio. When my daughter went up with us, and we got to do like a petting zoo. We went to the lake. She went to the pool. I mean, she had a blast. What about you?
Aw, that's so fun. I'm in Atlanta, so it's pretty hot here,
Yeah.
and the weather is kind of stormy. It's like the annoying, it might rain, it might not,
Mm.
you don't know, so, whatever. So we did some family stuff, friend stuff, and then yesterday tried to hit up the fireworks, but that was a total failure. So fortunately,
No.
with the rain, there was a huge storm, and that ruined everything, but
Well, we have
it
it
was still
now,
fun.
so maybe it came this way because it was a gorgeous 4th of July for us. We even went kayaking. It was so beautiful, but now it's been storming today. So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
it's all over these summer storms, and they're also like 10 minutes. So it's just frustrating when you
I
plan
know.
something and then it downpours out of nowhere. But oh well. But either way, wrong point. So anyway, so super pumped to have you today, and I think this conversation is something that so many women are starting to really get, have questions about and really be interested in, especially with all of the education now on birth control and all that stuff. So I'm super excited to see where this goes. But
Yeah.
first and foremost, just explain a little bit about you and kind of what got you into this space. Definitely, I think as a FAM educator, that's a specific niche you have to be passionate about. And again, like we weren't taught any of this growing up, right? So like how you came across this whole method, I kind of like
Yeah.
taught myself, I guess, along the way and just kind of figured it out. Birth control was never personally for me, so I attempted it very short term, horrible experience, and
Mm,
really since then have dove into FAM, and it's great. I love it.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah. So like originally got started with this work through health coaching. So I'm a certified health coach first. I was a teacher, a music teacher for 7 years. So I taught middle school
So
choir,
fun.
and yeah, so totally different experience. But through that experience, I was really overstressed. My body, I was not taking care of my body. I was drinking so much coffee and eating not enough food and just doing a lot of things that weren't great for me at the time. And
Right.
so I was starting to struggle with like a ton of anxiety. I also had previously been on birth control for over 7 years. So it was like all of these combination of things. My periods were just all over the place, such a mess. I was on and off different types of birth control and so many different things. But eventually I kind of started diving into just nutrition and lifestyle changes, which led me to health coaching. Got super passionate about that. And then I ended up starting my own practice, coaching clients. I left teaching, which I
Okay.
loved so much, but I left teaching, and then did coaching full time. And then I was focusing so much on hormone health, right? Everything was hormone health,
Right.
hormone health. And I realized kind of the same thing. I had started teaching myself fertility awareness method and was implementing the principles with my clients. But when you're really using the method for birth control, there's a lot of intricacies and rules and things with cervical mucus. And so I decided to get my certification in it. And since then, I've really shifted towards kind of primarily focusing on fertility awareness method and hormone balance and fertility.
I love that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it's so, sometimes people don't realize like everything's so connected, right?
Yes.
So even if you go to a gut health specialist, you're going to talk about hormones, you're going to talk about, even potentially FAM and things like that and how those things can impact all the processes. So I think it's cool how
someone can start with somebody super specialized, but still learn all of the elements and things that we need
Yeah,
because they're all combined.
exactly.
So that's really cool. So we'll talk about like your offering, what you do with your course and stuff at that at the end, for resources, but definitely want to, I love that you chose this path. I think it's really unique, and I don't personally know any other fam educators yet. So I love that.
Nice. It's growing. I mean, with so many things happening, right? Like everybody wants to learn more about their body. And so it's
Right.
definitely growing. People are frustrated with birth control. And so I think fertility awareness method is, I'm glad that like more people understand and have heard of the name and have heard of the method and are starting to believe in it. So yeah, we're all out here. There's more fam educators coming through. It's great.
Yes. Okay. So let's break it down simple. I'm sure people are even the, most basic explanation, just so that those who listening have no idea what it is. So
Yeah.
explaining what FAM is, and obviously like those 3 markers that we would look at, and kind of like the beginning stages of what this all looks like.
Yeah. So like the foundation fertility awareness method is understanding when you're fertile and when you're infertile based on your cycle biomarkers. And those biomarkers, the main one, hands down, is cervical mucus. So you're going to be understanding what you're seeing, when you're seeing it, what it means. If you're having a dry day versus non-peak, peak fertility, all of those types of things. And then the next biomarker, if you want, is testing LH. So you can always test your LH surge, figure out, really hone in on that window around ovulation. And then basal body temp. So tracking basal body temperature, which is most important for confirming ovulation has already happened, and letting you know that you're completely safe for the second half of your cycle. And you don't have to worry about getting pregnant if you don't want to. So it's finding out how to read and identify your body's specific clues so that you can use it for your fertility goals.
I love that. Yeah. And I think it's so cool because again, we have so many things that happen in our bodies as women that we tend to, think are scary, or things that we should be worrying about. And I'm sure you have this conversation so many times, but these are things that are supposed to be happening, and this is good stuff. So, okay, so let's break down those markers a little bit more. So with basal body temperature, we'll start there. I think a lot of women question, whether a oral thermometer or a thing like temp drop or something like that is more effective, and just kind of breaking down what that pattern looks like throughout your cycle and all that.
Yeah. So you can really use either. Honestly, it depends on your lifestyle. So if you are somebody that you're often up throughout the night, maybe you're a postpartum mom and you're breastfeeding still, or you just don't like waking up at the same time every day. All of those little factors play into the accuracy of your basal body temperature. So temp drop, the wearable thermometer, is a great option for that. So if you're one of those people, or you work night shift, temp drop's great. And then oral thermometer, honestly, is super easy, is super cheap. And so if you are someone that consistently wakes up around the same time, you're really good about remembering to take your temperature every day. You don't have a lot of disturbances in your life. Like for people that, they go out and drink, or they have crazy sleep schedules, that's where you need temp drop. But if you don't, you're pretty consistent, oral thermometer works fine. But really, you're just looking for a biphasic pattern. So you're looking for low temps before you ovulate, high temps after you ovulate.
And in the temp range, what is the low temp, high temp range typically?
A healthy follicular phase is usually going to be floating around 94 range, or 97.4, I'm sorry.
I'm whoa.
No, not 94, 97.4. I was just thinking of the number 4 in my mind.
I, in my mind, thought, I was like, okay, I know what she's talking about, but
whoa, not that low. Yeah. If you're really anywhere in the low 97s, 96 range, there's something going on, stressor on the body, thyroid, something's usually going on. But yeah, 97.4, 97.3 even, I'm okay with. And then, after you ovulate, it's really nice to see your temps 97.9 and above. I really like when clients have 98, 98 and above temps. It just shows that we have a really good progesterone rise, sufficient amounts of progesterone, things like that.
So what if you have, sporadic low temperatures? For example, I think this was, there was a question that came in that I had asked, and it's kind of into this, but what if you have specific low temperatures, or randomly, typically I'm sure those are factors whether it's a poor night's sleep, you drank the night before, and then the question somebody had asked too was, they're having low basal body temperatures around 96.5, and then things on what you can do to help raise temperatures. Those are my
Yeah.
questions.
If
Does
they're
that make sense?
sporadic, it most likely, yeah. Yeah. Can you
Am
hear
I,
me okay? Oh,
I
sorry. I thought
can.
we
Can you
froze for
hear
a
me?
second. No, we're good. I think we're good. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think if it is an outlier temp, it's most likely just sleep, right? Or like drinking, like you mentioned. And I would just mark it as an outlier in your chart. But other than that, I mean, if you are consistently seeing low ones, number one, I would definitely get thyroid checked if that's something that you're thinking could be an issue. My dog is scratching at my door. I don't know if you can hear him right now. He's
You're
like
good.
scratching at it. But anyway, so that, and then honestly, like, are you eating enough? Like, at the foundation is like, are you eating enough? Are you getting in enough protein and fats and like carbohydrates for your body? Are you sleeping enough? I mean, if your temps are super low, there is some stressor on the body. And I think like basic health, it's like make sure you're eating enough, getting in enough nutrients and minerals, sleeping well, those types of things. And then if it's still not really raising, then I would look at maybe getting your blood work done and figure out if there's something going on there.
So would you say like how many would be kind of a red flag? Would it be like three consistently,
Oh,
or,
no, no. I would say like
over
a
and over?
cycle, honestly. Yeah, I would
Okay.
say, yeah. I kind of look at a pattern. I don't look at like, oh, this one's low. I mean, if half of your follicular phase is usually low, then I would say like, let's look into it. But if you have like one here and then it goes up and another one here, I feel like that's just usually um probably
Life.
not like thyroid, right? That's probably like too many stressors in your life in general, and you could probably handle that from more of like a lifestyle change factor.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then from the like basal body temp, you mentioned, same time as often as possible, especially if you're using the oral. So in
Yes.
that way, what would be the window? Typically like 30 minutes from each other, an
Yep,
hour
it is. It's usually
max?
30 minutes. But some bodies are more sensitive than others. Like I've had women that, within an hour they take their temp and they don't see a total fluctuation. And I've had other women that within that hour it jumps, one way or the other. Usually like the later in the day it gets, the higher your temperature gets. So
Hmm.
I've noticed like sometimes that happens, or if somebody wakes up really early for work one day, they'll have a super low temp. So just kind of notice your body's patterns, but try to, if you can, within 30 minutes of waking each day. As in like, if you wake up at 8 one morning, try to get it between 8 and 8:30, or like 7:30 and 8. Try not to go outside of that. And definitely like don't get up, don't use the restroom, don't none of those things. If you're taking oral temps, it's like you open your eyes, you're ready to wake up, take your temp.
I have my temp drop app, on my phone. And so as soon as I wake up, I'm like half asleep doing the thing with
Yep.
you sync it and all of that. But it is interesting. It's easy to get yourself caught up with low temperatures every once in a while, but it's when I realize and go back and look at my day to day or what's happening, I'm like, okay, this makes sense as to why I might have been a little bit lower here and there. But it's comforting to know that
Yeah,
I think women just, it's life and it's going to happen, but just knowing
totally.
that what's the big picture looking like, and, how are you also feeling, and kind of gauging that as you go.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we actually can get too deep into it sometimes and like, really try to interpret and pick apart the data. And it's like, look for patterns. That's the main thing. Like, we're looking for big, broad patterns here.
Absolutely. And then with like temperatures in general, you typically do the 100th degree, right? So making sure the thermometer has that as well
Yes.
included.
Yeah, so it needs to be like 97.54. We don't want to just have 110, like 97.4. We want to make sure we have all the decimals. 100th
Okay,
degree. Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
And okay, so moving on to cervical mucus then. So then that factor, I think just explaining that obviously just in a layman's terms, some people may not even have any idea what that is. And
Yeah.
then obviously the patterns you see there and what that's supposed to look like.
Right. Yeah. So cervical mucus is like your go-to biomarker for understanding if you're fertile or not. There's different types of it, but I try to make it really simple. So either you're dry, you're not experiencing any CM, or you're seeing something what we call cell slough. So it's like natural cleansing of the cervix. And that typically is like right after you end your period, you'll kind of experience nothing. And I want to just preface this by saying not everybody's body follows this picture perfect pattern. And if you've been on birth control for years and you just got off, it's very likely that you may see like no CM or like an abundance of CM. Or if you're struggling with PCOS, you might see abundance of CM all the time. So that's where, like, of course, getting deeper into the method is what's helpful. But in general, it's like you have low hormones, your cervix is not triggered to produce CM. As estrogen rises, throughout the first part of your follicular phase, you start to see what's called non-peak CM. It's still fertile. It has its own qualities, and it can be like a smooth sensation when you're wiping. It might look a little creamy or opaque. It'll stretch a little bit, ball up in between your fingers, things like that. And as estrogen continues to rise, you see what's called more peak-like CM, which is very stringy, lubricative, watery, slippery, egg white sensation, stretches quite a bit between your fingers before breaking. And so it's called your point of change. Once you really enter or see any sort of fertile cervical mucus, and all mucus is fertile, we have to assume it is fertile, that's when you've entered your fertile window, and you're really looking out for signs of upcoming ovulation. And then after you ovulate is when you produce progesterone and your cervical mucus dries up because your estrogen levels drop back down, progesterone takes over, and then, basal body temps rise and you're in your non-fertile phase again.
Yes, I'll cycle through again.
Exactly.
Are there any factors in particular that affect cervical mucus production or also can help increase that if people are struggling with that?
Yeah. Well, years on birth control, because remember, estrogen is what prompts your cervix to produce CM. So if you've stopped that whole estrogen rise because you've been on birth control, then your cervix needs time to remember. So that's going to be a big thing. Stress is going to play a huge role. Any hormone imbalance in general, if you're struggling with estrogen, dominance even, you might produce like abundance amounts of CM and it looks like you're fertile all the time, even though, your ovulation is not coming up for a while. So hormone imbalance in general. But if you want to support cervical mucus, it really comes down to supporting the health of your follicles, because the health of your follicles are what produce estrogen. So that's going to be, essentially everything you teach, right? It's like nutrition, like all the foods and ways to heal your metabolism, hormone balance principles, all of those types of things. And then, make sure you're drinking enough. Like that's an easy one, because cervical mucus is like 95% water. So 95 or like 98, it's a very high number. It's primarily water. So drinking enough water, vitamin C has been shown, whole food vitamin C has been shown to help support cervical mucus. Vitamin E, we know, is super supportive of hormone balance. So there's like little things that you can do to help support.
Okay, nice. I like that. Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think it's all so connected too, because like typically, I obviously know Kelsey from Buns and Balance, but just talking through things, like with clients and things like that. And it's crazy to see how lifestyle changes can make such a big difference in those elements and create regularity, and also helps to see how quickly you can kind of overcome, challenges such as like coming off birth control and having everything kind of go kind of crazy at first, and then it kind of toned down. Do you see that a lot with your clients?
Oh my gosh, too? All the time. And, because birth control obviously is like a low-grade stressor on the body. And so when you think about it, getting off of it, that's another stressor as well, because you're kind of switching things up. Your natural hormones are coming up. So I try to think like, well, what can we control and what can't we control? And we can definitely control how to add like de-stressing lifestyle tools into our life to help balance out all the things that maybe have been happening while on birth control for years or deciding to get off. So yeah, like even honestly, like being in bed by 10, like that's like, even if you're like reading in bed by 10 or whatever, journaling, something that can be just helpful, like getting to bed half an hour or an hour earlier, the little things.
Right. I love 10 p.m. bedtime. It's the best.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the last one with cervical position, is that something that you typically, I know it's not normally the one I feel like most people prioritize, but what's your approach with that third marker?
I teach it as in like I have information on it and I present it to my clients. I don't think it's not like a necessary biomarker. I think for some women that struggle with identifying their cervical mucus patterns, it can be helpful. It can be a helpful extra clue, because if they're not quite sure, they can check the height of their cervix. And if it's low and firm, then they're not, in their fertile window. If it's high and soft, then they can assume that they are in their fertile window. I think for cervical mucus cervical position, you need to check every day for at least a month. You know what I mean? Like, how are you supposed to know if it's high and soft or low and firm unless you start from day one of your cycle? So day one of your period, literally, or start right after you get your period, and check for an entire cycle. So it can be very tricky because some women don't know. Like I have a hard time finding my cervix, honestly.
Yeah, I've never used that one as like my main. I definitely like the other two more, but it's there, and if it works for you, hey, go for it.
Yeah.
So what would you say with like your just this whole practice in general that most women come to you and maybe have a lot of, what are the big questions that they have about this whole process, and maybe some myths that you typically have to debunk that they've obviously grown to believe?
Well, one, I think people think it's hard. Like, I think they're like, oh, birth control, I just pop the pill every day. I don't have to think about it. And it seems really scary because, I mean, OBGYNs will straight up tell, I can't even tell you how many of my clients have been told by their OBGYN, you're going to get pregnant within the first month of using fertility awareness method. That is not true. I mean, and you're a testament to it. I'm a testament to it. Countless women I've worked with, it works. It works. So don't think that it doesn't work. And it's different than the rhythm method. So you're not using the calendar. You're using your body's biomarkers. You can use calendar like as a backup, right? You can kind of use calculation rules after you've been using the method for a while, but you're not just going by the calendar and what your app tells you when you're fertile or when you're not fertile, because it can definitely be wrong. So there are a lot of myths around fertility awareness method, but I would say, like, number one, it is not as hard as people think it is. You really just have to be knowledgeable about cervical mucus. You have to know how to check it and when to check it. You have to have a chart. Like, you have to have a charting method, an app. I usually / always recommend Read Your Body, or, I have a paper chart if people like to paper chart. But other than that, I mean, you need a thermometer, and that's what you need. You need your body, you need a thermometer, you need a chart. And it's pretty simple. Other than that, like, the most common questions I get is like, what can I expect when getting off of birth control? And I often say everyone's body is really different, which is unfortunate, but
I know people hate that answer.
I know. Some women, like, they'll ovulate 2 weeks after stopping the pill, and they'll get their period 2 weeks after that. And like, then they're off on, they're off to the races and it's good. Other women, they'll have post-pill amenorrhea, and there'll be months and months and months till they get their cycle. But I will say that's a small, minute percentage. And I would say most women within 2 to 3 cycles start to see a really consistent pattern after stopping birth control.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, at least the conversations I've had with my friends too, it's just, I'm so scared. I've been used to doing this. It just seems also new to me. And it is, it definitely is. I think it's just, it's so thrilling, not thrilling, I guess is the right word.
No, it is thrilling.
It's thrilling. It's exciting, but also just so awesome when you really get in tune with your body and exactly like what it needs, and your significant other is supportive of that as well.
Yeah.
And you guys are kind of in that together,
I will say too, it's hard to conceptualize because if you're on hormonal birth control, I mean, the copper IUD is a little bit different, right? Because it's obviously non-hormonal, so you do ovulate. I think there's like some cases when women don't, but in general, like, you might ovulate, you might see different CM patterns just because it could cause like inflammation or whatever in the cervix. But hands down, like, if you're on hormonal birth control, you're not gonna be able to conceptualize this because you're gonna say like, what are you talking about, cervical mucus patterns? Or my basal body temperature is all over the place. And that's because you can't apply the method while on it. So you have to get off it and learn. So I always encourage women to learn about it, feel really comfortable, and then get off, like, you don't have to do it right away. You don't have to like get off of birth control and start FAM. You can learn about it ahead of time so you're ready.
Absolutely. And I think even from the nutrition side, like supporting your body earlier, learning how to balance your blood sugar, what's your gut gut doing, and handling that and everything. So then that way your transition is hopefully a lot easier and you can learn this much more quickly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love that. Okay, so I did have a few questions. You kind of touched on them slightly, but I just want to make sure that they get answered. Okay, so can you do FAM while on the copper IUD in particular? So you kind of touched on that, but can you just clarify?
Yes, you can practice it. Yeah, you can definitely practice it. I haven't, like, there's no clear data on this, but I do think that some women's cervical mucus observations are slightly altered with the copper IUD, and I'm not sure if that's because of inflammation or maybe like mineral imbalances or whatnot. I'm not 100% sure why. But some women can practice it completely fine. And then, they start charting afterwards whenever they decide to get it taken out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think, and then the mineral deficiencies or imbalances that you were saying, I think that definitely plays a big role with that in particular. So doing like an HTMA test to kind of see where you lie there, and then obviously progressing. But at the end of the day, you can always practice this stuff and then, like you said, implement when you're ready and you're fully off of it.
Even if you're on hormonal birth control, you can practice getting in the habit of taking your temp every day, and like, you can get into the habit of like wiping and feeling for sensation, or looking at your toilet paper after you pee. I mean, you're not going to see the correct thing if you're on hormonal birth control or feel the correct thing, but you can at least start the habit process of it.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think knowledge is power, and I'll start reading a lot of books.
Yes.
I think there's so many amazing resources that you can have access to and all of that. It is a lot, though. It's a very overwhelming process. And somehow I just stumbled upon it, and that's been my life ever since. So it's just one of those things. But okay. And then we talked about how to raise temperatures. And then the last one was, how is it different than the Marquette method? And is that the same as the rhythm method?
No, Marquette is another fertility awareness-based method. So I'm not 100%. So there's fertility awareness-based methods, right? Like one I know for certain, Billings is a method, and that just uses cervical mucus alone, like no basal body temps. Marquette, I believe, is like basal body temp, cervical mucus, and LH testing, I think. I'm certified in FEM, which just teaches cervical mucus and luteinizing hormone testing, but I add basal body temps. So like there's Justice, there's a lot of different like methods, but overall they're all fertility awareness based methods.
And what for those listening, the rhythm method, if anyone's never heard of that, what is the difference between FAM and that in particular?
The rhythm method is just using your calendar and assuming like, oh, I usually get my period around day 28, which means I usually ovulate around day 14, and just kind of keeping track like, okay, I must be in my fertile window days 10 through 14. And just like assuming that's accurate.
Right.
But the problem is your cycle can change. And so if it does change, then that's where I think gynecologists, they're even confusing the rhythm method and fertility awareness method. And I feel like we just need to get the word out about the fact that they're not the same.
And I think no matter what book you read, it's always like, it's not always day 14, knowing
Exactly.
that there's bio-individuality with that, and every woman is different, and not getting so stuck on that number. Or just so even rigid just in any part of this process. None of it is going to be same to any person you talk about it with, but just knowing what works for you and following your body's cues, I think, is so important. So, but being flexible is the biggest thing, I would say.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to finish up with kind of like some resources that you could offer for anyone who wants to maybe like learn a little bit more about it. Any good books or anything like that? I know for me, I read Taking Charge of Your Fertility, which is it's a hunky textbook, but it is pretty informative. And then I also know that you have your amazing course to kind of walk people through, and your membership and things like that. So kind of explaining both of those to kind of lead us off.
Yeah, cool. Well, there's definitely books that you can look out for. I mean, Taking Charge of Your Fertility is great. It can be a little overwhelming. There's a lot of information in it. There's also like the Sensa Plan book. That's a really good one as well. But I have a free training. So if you're kind of just interested in learning a little bit more, I do have a free training. It's just nourishwithnina.com/FAM training. And you can download that and watch it. And then I do have the course, Luna, which is a 6-month membership and course. You get the course forever. Literally teaches you step by step how to learn fertility awareness method. Then you also have 6 months of support with me, so I can check your charts and I can answer questions. And you have a whole community of girls that are in there that are also, dealing with the same questions and charts and things. So it's a great way if you want to actually like dig in deep, learn the method, prevent pregnancy. I have modules on postpartum and also conception. So really just learning how to use the method full spectrum.
So from one follow-up to that with postpartum in particular, do you feel like what's the typical time frame or range that women start to kind of utilize it after they've obviously given birth?
So if you're breastfeeding, you usually start charting. It seems crazy, but around 8 weeks even. But it's tricky because some women don't get a cycle back for, up to a year, especially if they are breastfeeding around the clock, but you're still going to be applying the principles because you have to look out for upcoming ovulation. So honestly, like around the 2-month mark, I would start charting, and I would only use temp drop if you're breastfeeding because, your temps are going to be all over the place. And honestly, like even if you're not breastfeeding and you're, because I actually had to stop at 6 weeks, but you're like taking, your child's obviously having bottles throughout the night, you're going to want to use temp drop because you're going to be up all night. So it's just start charting earlier, and it's a whole nother ballgame postpartum. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Not there yet, but one day. One day.
Yeah, one day. I'm 15 months out now, but seriously, it's a whole nother ball game. But it's totally doable. I did it, not pregnant again, not planning on it for a while.
There you go. You're
Yeah.
you're the end all resource. Well, I love chatting with you, and I will put this on my feed so anyone can watch it for future reference. But I'll continue to support you for sure, and definitely look forward to seeing all that you do with this. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is great. I love the work that you're doing too, and just so glad that there's this community of support for women. So thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, Nina. Bye.